Hello and welcome to this week's episode of My CP Does Not Define Me, where we focus less on the dis and more on the ability of what we can do. Join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, live on the Disability Global Broadcast and Facebook Live. Looking forward to seeing you there.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again. I'm going on 3.5 hours sleep. Nobody knows it, and that's okay because we're here for episode 83 of My CP Does Not Define Me. And I'm here with my friend and colleague, and she has been on the show before. If you guys read the flyer, you know that Isabella is back for part 2, but what you don't know is what I have in store for Isabella today, because starting right now, starting today, February the 16th, 2022, this show right here becomes the most talked about, becomes the most edgy, becomes the most like controversial, if you want to call it that. Because the questions that I'm going to ask today and the questions that I'm going to start asking in these next upcoming shows are going to make people go, what in the world has happened to this show? Not in a bad way. Not in a bad way. Isabella she is smart and amazing and does a lot of amazing things, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. Isabella, thank you for coming back to the show for part 2. I'm so excited about this. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back. And for those who don't know, my name is Isabella Schneider, and I am in my last semester of college. I study English and minor in religious studies, and I am in the middle of creating a magazine that will be coming out this year. So that is very exciting, and I am just so happy to be back on the show and see what's in store.
Okay, so what I want to do is I want to kind of dive into some of the things that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Now, what type? Let's go into your disability just a little bit.
Mhm.
You have cerebral palsy. What type of cerebral palsy do you have?
So I have a spastic cerebral palsy.
Okay, all right. For the and you talked about that a little bit last episode you were here. So,
Mhm.
all right. So let's go back a little bit. You said you were in your last semester of college.
Mhm.
First question. With your CP that you have, what is probably the most difficult thing as far as physically with your disability?
I would say for me, it's kind of planning out my day just to make sure that I'm not going to be, so physically tired by the end of the day. It just really depends on how busy my day gets. And sometimes it's busier than others, and I just have to kind of take it as it goes. But yeah, I just have to be really careful, especially, when I first get up in the morning and especially by the end of the day, I have to just really be careful of like the spasticity. And for me, it just affects more of my lower body. So especially my legs and feet, and just kind of having to plan my day around how I'm feeling. It's
Okay.
probably the most difficult part because there's so many things that I like to do or, get around to doing. And sometimes I have to make sacrifices in order to take some time for myself to relax.
Okay. Want to let everybody know that we're live on Facebook. We're live on the Disability Global Broadcast. Want to welcome everybody to the show as you come in. Hi, Cindy. Hi, Tiffany. Hey, JP. How are you? So on that question so it's more of a physical problem, or I don't want to say problem, more of a physical issue with the
Mm-hmm.
day planning. Is it,
Mm-hmm.
do you have to use like the big calendar? Do you have to use, the schedule planner? I mean, does Siri read it out to you? How does that go?
So I have a couple different ways that I plan just because sometimes I prefer having a digital uh, planner or list, and
Mhm.
sometimes I like writing it down in a physical planner. So it just kind of depends. And, sometimes I look at my list and I'm like, okay, am I realistically going to be able to get all of these things done? Am I going to, be able to walk across campus and, get that, make it to that appointment on time? So it just really, part of it it just comes, as it comes. And then sometimes I'm like, okay, I can get, through all of these different things.
All right. So since you talked about that, let's go into the little bit of the next question. So
Yeah.
how do you juggle the day to day? If you have, an appointment to where you've got to be here at this specific time, how much time do you need to get ready? Or does it depend on the day? Or does it depend on what has to be done? Or did I just answer both questions?
I would say maybe you kind of answered both of them, but I will say part of it does kind of depend. I try to make sure I plan my days out to where I do have time in between. So if I need to come back to my room, for example, and take some time to, sit down for a while, I can do that. So, and also I have a great work environment where they know that I deal with a lot of physical toll on my body. So if I need to be remote for a night working, I can do that, and I can still get my tasks done. And I know not everyone can do that, but I'm very thankful that I can do that.
So let's talk about something that is, I think, far too often pushed aside. Do you ever have, and I said this show is going to get kind of, I went, and this is what I'm meaning by this. These questions that are going to come, we don't rehearse these. These are not planned. She's not holding a cue card going, I know what the next question's going to be. Do you have those moments? Do you have those strenuous, oh my God, I can't take it anymore moments? Get this thing the heck away from me. Do you ever just go, ah? And if you do, how do you deal with that? What is the mental fatigue like for your last semester of college?
Yeah.
What does Isabella's mind go through on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, that's a really good question. For me, at least for it being the last semester, I'm kind of going through those emotions that a lot of college students kind of feel when they're about to end college, of like, planning out, job opportunities and trying to get a job, and finishing, a lot of final projects and things like that. So my mind kind of, there's always something I can do and can work on. And there are days where it just kind of does get overwhelming. And, for me, I have to, basically, I like to come back to my room because I can be by myself. And the way I kind of decompress is that I like to listen to music a lot. Or watch Netflix or something. It just really depends, where I end up going. Or sometimes I'll chat with my friends or my parents, and just talk about the stuff that I'm dealing with. And especially if it's physical toll, like I'm just like, okay, maybe I did too much today, and I really need to like take a break and go to bed earlier. So it's a lot of different things that I think about and I emotionally go through, but it's kind of comes down to just dealing, with things one day at a time, and knowing when to reach out for help. And I know that's not always an easy thing for people to do, but there are times where it's like, okay, I need to let this person know that I need, an extension on this or stuff like that.
When you reach that point, to keep this clean, I'm trying to not go totally to the other side. Does your mind play tricks on you? Does your mind go, oh, come on, you don't need that? Does your mind try to mess with you and try to make it make the situation lighter than it actually is? And do you think that's a good thing?
I have noticed that I do tend to like suppress emotions a lot. Like,
Mm,
I might get to a point where I'm, upset or something, and I'm just like, everything's okay. And it's like clearly, emotionally, like my mind's not okay, in this moment. But, it's kind of, I've been learning how to, just let those emotions happen and, being able to just take some time for myself and, um, try to think about the reaction and, um, why I would be feeling that way.
that's a great way to look at it. Great comment here for JP. For me, to be honest, my reaction to the end of college life was, now what? Lots of uncertainty. So that kind of brings me into the next question that I was going to ask you, because when your mind tries to play it off, so to
Mhm.
speak, and you're in that moment of overwhelm, not necessarily overwhelmed, but you realize that you're at your limit, and
Mhm.
everybody has limitations, and that's okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Your mind and your physicality, disability or not, cerebral palsy or not, you're going to come to that wall. You're going to come to that breaking point. Now, I'm not saying you can't push it a little bit further, or not saying you can't move that wall brick by brick just a little bit, but you're going to get to that point where you're going to go, enough is enough. Is that a struggle for you? Do you try to push yourself too far, too fast, too hard?
I think it just, I guess right now, as in my final semester and with all these different um, commitments, to different publications on campus, and there's all the things that I want to do. Sometimes it, does feel maybe a little bit overwhelming, but
Mm,
it's just kind of learning how to prioritize your time and like knowing how much time to invest without overwhelming yourself, because I know a lot of things, at least for me, that was kind of new this semester, was doing an internship and kind of
mm,
learning how to plan out my time so that I can make sure I can, spend enough time each day without, getting tired and not being able
sure.
to do things later, things like that. So it's a lot of trial and error. And like that comment said, yeah, there can be a lot of uncertainty with the end of college, which can be kind of, just shocking to think about. And for
Mm,
me, it's just like thinking about all the people that I might be, might never see again and that kind of thing. But, it's like everyone has their goals, and I have long term goals, and, I'm slowly working towards those things. And it's just kind of a lot of reminders of, why I'm doing things and why I'm, able to invest more time in certain things and being okay with, um, if I can't necessarily attend something, because it's not like people are going to be mad at me if I can't physically come, because there's other ways to do that now. So,
Well, I mean, there's always more than one way to skin a cat. Sorry, Kitty, didn't mean to go that route. But I want to go back to something you said earlier, and I want to
mhm.
go back to something JP said. The uncertainty. When college finishes, and for me, you mentioned something. How much you're going to miss your friends. That right there, and I really haven't shared this part of my life, but I'll go ahead and open up a little band-aid a little bit. That destroyed me when I left high school and college. There was a connection that I had with people. I am a people person.
Mhm.
I may be the center of the room without intending. I may be the center of the room with intending. But when I inter interact with people, when I interweave myself with them, I become uh, emotionally involved. I become physically involved. Not in that sense. I become mentally involved because I don't want to say I latch on to them, but I sort of do. It's like, hi, and they're like, can you please get away from me? You are too much. And then I'm like, okay, back away, back away, back away. And then it's over. You blink and it's over, and you go, my God, what happened? I was in my final year of college and it's over. Why? Like,
Yeah.
I I don't know. When we were talking before the show,
Mm-hmm.
that I mean, I was in college 2.5 years, and I played football and did all this stuff, and I had all this stuff organized, and then it just when you're done, does the thought of being done? If I ask this right, is there a fear there? Is there the what now syndrome? What happens there?
It's interesting for me because in my case, I know like one thing I'll be doing after graduation, like no matter what, and that's surgery. So I know that's for sure happening. But in terms of everything else, I'm also working, on the magazine, and that's definitely something that's going to be coming out too. But there's that uncertainty, I guess, when it comes to a job at first, because I know for me, I'm going to have to be recovering, for basically the summer. And then I have to, kind of build back up my physical strength and everything all over again. So, so part of me understands that, I will have to take time off in general anyway. But, once I come to that, part of me is like, I really want to get experience too. So I have a lot of things that it's like, I want to do this, but I know, I have, at least after college for a little bit, I have to take some time off for myself. It's just, it's going to be strange because, I think a lot of people that, are so used to school, they get so used to that structure. And, once you're going into the field, it's completely different, especially,
I think, not to interrupt you. Sorry. I think there's a safety net there, because with school you have structure. You know when lunch is, when first period is, how your life is going to go because it is scheduled out from this time to this time to this time to this block to this block. And then you get to the end of the day and it's like, oh God, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I got homework and I got to finish this in the book report and then I got to do the magazine and you have deadlines.
Yeah.
But it's structured, you see. That's where life on the other side goes, you wait for me. Yes. Search your feelings, dear Fafa. You're trying to, and then you see the end, but the end is distant. Oh, I got 4 years. I ain't got to worry about oh my God, I'm a senior. It's like, what? And you spend all this time and you think you're preparing, well, I took my SATs and I took my CATs and I took my VATs and I took these T's and those T's and I took all these tests and the learning thing and the SOLs and and then you get there and you're like, oh God, what do I do now? It's over. I remember thinking 4 years. Oh my God, it's going to take forever. And now I'm like, I want to go back. And I can't do it. It just, it destroyed me because I never realized until after it was, they say you never realize what you have until it's gone. And that that structure, I think, made me who I am. JP said leaving college is like being thrown to the wolves. That's a true, and it. I was ready for life, but I think I wanted all of my friends to come with me. I wanted everybody that I knew. That was, I was the guy, I was. Hey, do this for me, on this day, the day I finished college, I mean, and I had the guys, they knew me. I was the godfather. I was set up. See, you work and you do all this stuff and you're in journalism and you study that and you're doing the magazine and everything is, you've got stuff, on your plate. And when the magazine comes out, it's going to rock. I cannot wait. What's the title? Let everybody know the title again.
The Cerebral Palsy Life.
It's so catchy, man, because you think about a magazine with interviews of so many different people and so many different aspects of cerebral palsy. And to me, cerebral palsy is the forgotten disability because everybody puts it on the shelf like, it's old. There's new stuff out there. Let's leave that behind. I just want to tell you how awesome it is that this thing is going to launch, and I think it's going to rock. I had a pleasure doing an interview with you. Do you have any idea when it's going to be next year?
So, my initial goal was going to be for spring, but with all my courses and everything, and my initial, like my dedication to other publications right now, it probably will be in July. I'm going to aim for July 11th, just because it gives me a solid, full year working on it. And
I love that. That's
and
awesome.
It definitely will let me be able to apply the stuff that I've continued to learn right now, as I finish, working on these other publications. So yeah, I'm really excited, and I'm excited to finally have a date, and I think it'll be worth the wait, just because it'll just look amazing, and there's amazing.
Look at that. She gave me a YouTube channel plug without even trying. Worth the wait. Cooking with DJ Carter on YouTube. Check it out when you get a chance. I have to read this comment. I love Siobhan because she always throws wood into the fire and keeps it going. And she's just the type of person that is phenomenal in everything she does. She said, "Hey gang, God bless y'all, but I have to say I'm going to be the underdog here. When I graduated from college, I was like, see ya." All right, so let me talk about that for a minute. There are those people that I want out. I want to get in the real world. Get me a job, get me a house, get me 2-3 girlfriends, boyfriends, or whatever you like. And then you get there and it smacks you right in the face. You're like, bam! And you're like, light bill, cable bill, what the world? Oh my God, I have the budget. Oh my God. Like, I made stupid decisions with money when I was in my 20s. I bought stuff because I had plastic, god dang it. I was like, woo! $5,000 on my credit. I messed my credit up so bad. My credit had CP, god dang it. It was my CP was like, slow down. My brain was like, no, buy it. Took me about 10 years to get my stuff straight. And I'm going to tell you what, boy, that is a wake-up call. When them credit bureau people call you, Mr. Carter, we know where you are. We want your money. We're going to take everything you got. I'm like, God dang, it just got serious. Like, I had to. But, I met some interesting people because I learned some stuff. You can't buy now and pay later. If you ain't got it now, you ain't gonna have it later. And I just I'm sure there are those senior people. I'm sure there are those college. I can't wait to get out of here until that day you are out and it's cold. And you in the real world by your daggone self and ain't got nobody. Mama ain't gonna help you. Daddy ain't gonna help you. Cousin Tebow ain't gonna help you. Yo. Were you, or have you ever felt, to kind of dive in a little bit, on your own of the, oh my God, what do I do now? Have you had that kind of, like, I know you had a great support system because you talked about it, part one. What is? Have you had that oh my God moment? The holy, how did this happen to me? Like, can you?
Yeah, I can talk about that. So I think for me, actually that kind of moment of like, oh my gosh, I'm by myself, was probably like my coming into college because I was like completely by myself, and a lot of the like my first year here, I was kind of like, okay, I gotta kind of pick up, and really just learn how to time manage pretty well, because all of these decisions are all on me, and then especially when I was told that I would need foot surgery and stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to do all of these appointments,
the big S word, man,
and insurance and all that stuff by myself, and learning how to be that voice for me, I guess, for myself, and just learning how to do that. And then but at the same time, though, I think that independence kind of it was really helpful, because there were so many times where throughout my college experience, I've been able to do a little bit of everything. So I did get to travel some, and like between 2017 and 2019, and then just really getting to open up myself across campus and everything. So I'm sure that whole feeling is different, once you're out of college and that structure.
Mm-hmm.
But because I know, I'm going to be at home for a while, I do, have that extra time to be able to plan. And I definitely know people, though, that want to say, like, see ya, especially for this type of college where, we're in like a mid-sized town and stuff. And so some of the people
I'm getting out of this mid-sized town. Yeah.
And so I totally understand. But for me, I just, I've learned it through, being on campus, and learning how to do things by myself.
Great answer. Thank you for sticking with me on that. JP said this: most things after college did not happen the way I planned, or at the very least, it envisioned. It was rough, but the experience taught me valuable life lessons about the real world. Now let's cover one thing that we haven't covered yet. College itself cost.
Mm-hmm.
Books cost.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you got equipment cost, classes cost, subscriptions cost, this cost, that. Money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, out the I can't say on the disability global broadcast, but good Lord, do they want their money. Now, you can get college loans, which you got to pay off, years to come, or win the lottery and pay that joker off in one lump sum, juggling that. And you mentioned something I never had to deal with. Surgery as an adult.
Mm-hmm. I never expected it to be quite this early into my adulthood to be dealing with that, but
I will tell you now, honey, no.
The whole thing.
No. I had my last surgery at like 15. Mama took care of the paperwork, the bills, the finance. I ain't have to worry about. That's all I'm saying. I'm just letting you know. Now I'd be like, what? I gotta have what? What? Oh my God! I gotta get this person and this person. How am I gonna bathe and how am I gonna move and how am I gonna? Because you go through that like. And surgeon, the doctors are, it's no big deal. Hold up. No big deal. A cast on my leg for 6 weeks. Do you have CP? No. Can you move yourself out of a chair? Yes. Can you transfer in the bathtub normally? Yeah. What am I gonna do? Looking like a turtle on his back trying to get in there. What the? See, these are the questions that they don't get asked, and finding help is so hard because it's different with CP, with cerebral palsy. So I wanna dig into this. Like, how do you prepare for the upcoming operation? What do you have to get in line? If I may ask that, what do you have to do to get things ready to make that big move? Because that's a big deal. I mean, and foot surgery is the way you walk, the way you
Mm-hmm.
transfer, the way you put your socks on, the way you put
Yeah.
pressure on. Oh my God, foot surgery is a beast. And I've had plenty of them.
Yeah.
Talk to me. So how do you prepare for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me,
I see.
this
We
is
ask
like the
great
third
questions.
year.
See, that's nice.
So it's this is my third year in a row doing this.
Oh, wow.
But in this context, it is, first time having to kind of set up things, I guess, and preparing for right after I graduate. So, so basically, while I was home for winter break, I basically did all of these appointments and planned out. Actually, I have an appointment planned for spring break so that I can get all the consultation stuff done because my doctor knows what to do. And so I just need to wait for authorization basically between March and April. And then the surgery department would actually call me and plan out that day to get the surgery. But also the other part for the prep though for me is at least trying to get as fit as I possibly can. Not overdoing it, but being prepared enough so that when I do have to be sitting for 2 months practically, my body isn't gonna be super weak, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a lot of that prep and actually now that I think about it, I have like so many appointments, coming up for after I graduate just because I have to, get those pre-op stuff for surgery. So it's a lot of just normal, prep things. But I planned it out in a way so that I could be able to do it and then plan the surgery for like middle of May or something like that, or that's my plan anyway.
So do you have help coming in to help you, or I mean, how hard was it to get that? Is it, if you can answer it, is it family members, or how did you work that part of it?
So because it's with the same like doctors and stuff, and it's basically I'm going to be able to go to my parents' house and be at their house for recovery. I think I just have to make sure that I get my grandma's walker so that I can hop around, when I need it. And then, just kind of, preparing ourselves to do that at home. So I do have that prep structure. And then
have you thought about the scooter where you put one leg on the scooter and move around?
Yeah,
so that you're not because when you're hopping around and moving on one leg like a little cricket, trying to, that's lost its chirp till you get it back. That's a harder thing. Sometimes sliding around is a little bit easier, but I know the way you position the foot is kind of weird there too.
Yeah, I've thought about that, and I actually have one of those. It's like a knee scooter, I think it's called. And I've tried that, and it's interesting for me at least. I don't know if it's really CP related or just some way that my body's sitting on the scooter.
Right.
But my leg tends to slide off, and I just don't want to risk, messing something up in my foot.
Last question about the surgery there. Can you go over a little bit of what's being done to your foot?
So my right foot is going to have a correction, and it's going to focus a lot on the midfoot because in 2020 the main things that got fixed on it were the bunion and the correction of my heel because my heel wasn't under my leg properly before. So basically what happened was in 2020 there was a couple of things that my doctor at the time was afraid to do because I'm so young getting all this stuff done that she didn't want me to be in more pain if she did extra joint fusions and stuff. So this time around,
great decision by your doctor right there. I have to commend her on that because so many doctors want to do it before the child stops growing, and
Mm-hmm.
that's surgery
Yeah.
with children. You got to be careful. Continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and so basically, from my learning from my left foot, actually from last year, from this current foot doctor I have, actually recommended from my previous doctor, it was agreed that the more, like, I guess the term would be aggressive approach should be taken on my foot because of the deformity.
Right.
So my left foot got corrected with everything at the same time, so that was a lot. So my right foot is still turned out, so that midfoot is still needs to be corrected, and it needs the joint fusions, and it's like a wedge to kind of push my foot over so that it's
Right.
straight.
I'm familiar with
Yeah.
the joint fusion because mine, when I walked, they flipped in,
Mm-hmm.
so they had to pin it all the way across and
Mm-hmm.
flatten it down. I want to go to a couple comments here before we get to the next part of the show. Siobhan, Josh said, "Oh my God, the books." All right, Siobhan said this: college, the cost was no joke, and as a struggling college student, trust me, I learned the value of bargains. You could make a meal out of ramen taste like a four-course dinner if you use your imagination. Preach it, girl. Good God
Mm-hmm.
Almighty. Let her love the ramen rather. Was in the hospital for JP said was in the hospital for a month because of surgery. My college professors were really supportive to make sure I still passed my courses that semester. And then Siobhan said this. I love this comment. I promise you that 10 years from now you will look back on this with fond memories. Remember that every bird has to fly on its own at some point. And I waited to pull this comment up because this next part of the show, people ain't ready for this. Okay, I got a couple of questions here that I want to ask you, and one is yeah, there's CP right there, in relation to your to one of your, I believe it's your minor. Was it
Mm-hmm.
was
Religious studies.
religious studies was your minor? What? How? Okay, I'm trying not to seem like a jerk when I ask this question. Why? What made you take something that can have so many point of views from so many people that you're just like, hold up, can y'all go back a little bit? I lost it. Let's. I mean, it seems like to me that can just go in every direction, and you can't really nail down anything like because it's so. I mean, how do you? I guess in an easier way, how do you determine belief, because belief is strong when somebody believes in something, especially with religion.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get into that and not be discouraged in some way or not be pushed away from it?
I think it's just a lot of it has to do with like a curiosity factor, just because there are so many religions out there, and they all have their different perspectives, and kind of what I um, at least what I reason with in terms of what made me choose it, um, is that there's so many things, and we talked about before the show, where a religion can be a part of who you are, and you have those beliefs that you really want to stick to. And I think for me as a writer, it's beneficial to kind of understand different religions, and kind of part of what makes people believe the different things that they do, and helping to better listen to them, to get their unique voice out. And especially with the courses that I'm taking right now, there's always a little bit of wisdom that you can take from each religion. And of course, there's no religion is perfect, but if you can better understand it, you can start to build a better understanding of the world around you, and just kind of learn how to appreciate other people's perspectives on different things.
And I'll be honest, I'm afraid to ask this next question, but I'm
Okay.
an honest person and I'm
Mhm.
honest with myself. I've been a Christian since I was 12 years old. I've been saved since I was 12, and I was mad for a long time. I didn't want to study other religions because I didn't want to push myself away from what I believed in.
Mhm.
How does studying other religions for you
Mhm.
make you question your own religion? And if it does for somebody else, what advice would you give them on what to do?
I think for me, I I've grown up Christian, and there were definitely times where I definitely questioned certain things,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that's just my curiosity and my drive to want to be able to analyze things and kind of get to the bottom of different things. And I think everyone at some point goes through that period of questioning things, and I understand that it definitely can be scary to move away from something that you kind of always seen one way. And so studying it just kind of helps you see it from maybe an outside perspective, or
Mm-hmm.
from
Mm-hmm.
or for like Christianity, there's so many interpretations and um, denominations, that there's different ways to look at things. And for somebody, the other part of the question, for somebody that was looking or starting to question their own religion, it's okay. I think it's should be okay to question it, and do your research. There's from my own studies, at least, there seems to be a lot of thinkers out there that people kind of overlook, because they'll um, see the one interpretation, but there's other thinkers out there that some of them are kind of in that older mindset, but some of them do make a lot of sense in the way that they talk about it, if that makes sense.
Right.
um,
And
and
go
so
ahead.
it's just kind of learning how to actively engage with your religion in different ways. And it just comes down to how you take away from it. And if you're able to follow your religion in a way that is satisfying, that's great. So
I have two more questions about
okay.
it, and then because you're the first person that I've talked about religion on this show with, and I chose to do it with you because of what you're studying and
Yeah.
because of how you answer the questions that I'm giving you, and you shoot from the hip, and I like that. Um, hey Daniel, welcome to the show. Thanks for stopping by. Daniel stopped by to say hi while his mom was running errands. So great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. This is a big question for me, and I want to see what your answer is, just because I want to see how you process it, and I want to kind of see where you go.
Okay.
How do you explain, or how do you talk about in religious studies when it
Mhm.
comes to faith versus hope?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I think that's a there's always that debate, faith versus hope.
Mm-hmm.
And I think through faith you can have hope. And there's that fine line, though, of are you placing too much faith? Are you leading yourself on too much? And um, goodness, I let me see how I let me process this question. um, it's
It's a tough
interesting.
one.
Yeah, it definitely, yeah, it's a thinker question. Um, yeah, it's just it's interesting how it's one of those things that I would like to see more people be engaged with their faith. And through that find their own hope. If
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of going back to being able to question and engage, and be able to take away what you are looking for from your faith.
Great answer.
And
Great
yeah.
answer. I look at it two ways. People say faith isn't real. There's no such thing. And I go to the same thing as saying, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. For hope, I don't like the word hope, because if you think about it, when you're hoping for something, you don't believe that you have it. It's a beggar. It's a taker. For me, it's a taker away of what you're achieving. The faith is, it's there, and I've specified this many times on this show. Edwina Wilson is one of the greatest walkers of faith I've ever met, and she will speak in faith, believe in faith, act in faith, everything towards it. And that's kind of what you're talking about, to take that, if I'm saying it right, to take it and apply it to everyday life. It's not just a hope. It's beyond the hope. It's the existence of speaking those things that are not as though they are, and it's hard to talk about religion on the radio, because most people are like, I don't want to hear all this Christian crap that he's talking about, God and this and that. And you got to be careful, because you can turn people off just as quick as you can turn them on. But to believe in something, it's that belief that sparks the faith. I mean, I would rather have faith in something than hope for it, because with hope, there's am I going to get it or not? With faith, it's boom. You either got it or you don't. Because to me, you can hope for something, but you can be right or wrong and get left out. Faith is either there or it isn't, and you're still searching for it. Because it's once you get it, if I had the faith that lady had, Jesus, Lord Almighty, I say that because she astounds me in her faith. That is crazy. She has crazy faith, and I don't mean that in a bad way. She is faithful in the sense of, like, everything she does, from walking down the stairs to taking care of Kelly to walking out the door. I mean, just like you're like, how in the world did that just happen? And it's just, she's going about a day, just, and it's there. Like, she will speak it into existence, and I think that's where people get dangerous right there. The word, your mouth can get you in so much trouble, because words are powerful. And people don't. Do you agree with that? I mean, people don't take their words seriously, but they need to.
Yeah, words can be so powerful, and it can impact people in ways that you don't know. And it can be very taken internally a lot.
All right, so with the last 10 minutes of the show, I have a new segment, and it's called Questions You Don't Expect. Questions You Don't Expect. Last 10, 12 minutes of the show, I'm going to do this with every guest. Isabella, what is your favorite word?
Ooh, favorite word. Ooh. Man. Favorite word. Oh, wow. I would say probably, this might be a weird word to have as a favorite word, but I really like the word turquoise, because I heard it. The reason why is that I heard it mispronounced as turquoise, and so there's like this running inside joke between me and my mom, and because we saw that person say turquoise, that's how we refer to it. So I would say turquoise is like my favorite word.
Turquoise. All right.
Yeah.
Isabella, what is your favorite sound?
Favorite sound? Oof. Man, I really like I French horn sounds. Like I used to be a French horn player, but I've been listening a lot to like stuff that I used to play, and so like the French horn sounds and kind of like a maybe I guess I could say like orchestral or concert band kind of sound, where it just sounds very like in the harmonies and just sounds so nice.
What makes you blush?
Ooh, I would say probably doing public speaking. I tend to flush very easily for any kind of public speaking. So yeah, that'll get me to blush so bad.
What irritates you most about your disability?
I would say how it just really depends on how my body is that day. It just and going back to that planning around my day, just because it can vary so much.
Okay. Can you tell me one thing that you love about yourself?
I like the way that I'm able to connect with others and just being able to listen to others and being able to translate that into my passion for writing and speaking out for things that can normally be overlooked.
Okay. Couple more. What is your least favorite sound?
Least favorite sound? Um, that like chalkboard, like scraping of the chalkboard sound.
I get that one a lot. And finally, keeping it clean. What is your least favorite word?
Least favorite word. I would say probably the word potential, just because it kind of makes it feel like, like you could do that. you have the potential to do that, and it's like, oh, are you implying that you don't believe, in my capability to do X thing,
You are amazing. Potential. That is a first. I have never heard anybody say their least favorite word is potential. Wow. That's pretty freaking amazing. All right, so I have one more question to end this.
Okay.
And and I want to ask this, but I want you to think about it.
Okay.
Before you answer it. If there's one thing that you could change about your disability only,
Okay.
what is it, or would you change anything about your disability and why?
I think for me, I would change the aspect of the chronic pain part of my disability, because if anything, I've learned over the past couple of years that I do deal with a level of chronic pain, and it can, just be burdensome sometimes because it just limits you from being able to continue with what you want to do. And, I obviously, like, I don't think anyone should have to deal with chronic pain, but, part of me also just wants to say, like, disabilities really vary, and just, you have to be able to learn how to balance everything with what you have. So, it's not going to change, but if I had to change some aspect of it, it would be the chronic pain and take away the chronic pain.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit with this, and it's not really a spot question, but I'd like to know, would you like to come back for a part 3 and then do this again? I mean,
yes, yeah.
And I because what I love about you is there's a spontaneity there, but there's such a there's such a deep realism with you, and I don't know if it's because of who you are. I know that's part of it. I don't know if it's because of what you study. I don't know if it's because of something that has sparked my interest. I'm not sure. It's the way that you answer questions is we have a lot of similarities in how we think. And
Mhm.
I've never taken religious studies. I've never been to college as a writer. Uh, I've been in a magazine, but I've never written one. And again, just we got about 5 minutes left. Anything that you want to share, as far as if you'd like to, how people can get a hold of you, or how they can get a hold of your magazine, or any final thoughts or anything you would like to share, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Well, if you or like if you know somebody that's going through their final year of school, whether that's high school or college, I think I just want to remind people, it's really a process of figuring out, to what you want to do with your life. And
Mm.
this was emphasized to me before I entered college, and my college career has certainly not been linear. And I think people forget that it doesn't really matter when you graduate college,
Mm.
because you're going to be able to find that spot in your life, that you feel passionate about, or subject in your life that you feel passionate about,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll be able to thrive that way. And just knowing how to present your skills is so important. Um, and then in terms of contacting me, the best way is through Facebook right now. And if you would like to contact the magazine, it is just the name, The Cerebral Palsy Life at gmail.com. And yeah, that's about it.
All right. Well, I want to thank Isabella for being on the show with me. Do me a favor, Isabella, stay with me. Don't go anywhere. If you guys want to contact me, you can catch me on 3 YouTubes, Worth the Wait Cooking with DJ Carter, My CP Does Not Define Me, or Chairmaster Games. You can contact me on Instagram, My CP Does Not Define Me. You can contact me on Twitter, My CP Does Not Define Me, at Minion Sports, or my blog, CarterDJ85 at Wixsite.com. And I always want to say thank you guys for tuning in and your comments and your support. Please, 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 if you have not watched the show in its entirety, go back and take a look. The show is going to be bigger, badder, better, edgier, and it's going to have the questions that make you go, whoa. And that's my job. That's what I'm here to do. So we're on episode 84 and a whole lot more to come to. So catch us next week. Next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. If you'd like, that's Eastern Standard Time. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, please email me at carterdj85@gmail.com. Please include your name in the subject line, a short bio about yourself, and a picture that I can use. And I always say, if you can't be good, be bad, but be good at it. This is D to the J with the roll away, saying we will see you again next week.
All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this week's episode of My CP Does Not Define Me. As always, you can catch us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on the Disability Global Broadcast and Facebook Live. If you haven't already checked out our YouTube channel, My CP Does Not Define Me, we post all of the show videos in our My CP playlist. I'm your host, D to the J with the roll away. And if you can't be good, be bad, but be good at it. We'll see you next week.